Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're acting as a specialized analytical engine to deeply deconstruct a highly specific, anonymous expert report on procedural optimization. We're going to bypass all the filler and look closely at the creation, deployment, and sheer utility of these intensive procedural blueprints. We'll break down exactly what these comprehensive guides are, who they're explicitly designed for, and how they operate to systematically reduce bureaucratic friction. We're getting straight into the actionable insights and the core mechanisms today, so let's get started. To logically break down these blueprints, we're going to hit four main areas: target demographic analysis, structural composition and contents, strategic utilization protocols, and finally, operational limitations and boundaries. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. Target demographic analysis. Before we even touch the mechanics of the guides themselves, we absolutely have to understand the specific profile of the intended user. The expert report defines this core user as the independent applicant. This is someone who is navigating incredibly complex family-based legal procedures entirely on their own. They're intentionally trying to bypass traditional legal channels, usually to save money, or just retain personal control over the process. To actually pull this off, they are actively seeking structured, highly reliable data to build up their own procedural confidence. They aren't looking to hand the reins over to someone else. They want the exact, unvarnished roadmap to do it themselves. The overarching goal here is literally replacing bureaucratic chaos with structured, objective confidence. The primary objective is to actively mitigate procedural friction because, by having all the actionable data and forms explicitly mapped out, the independent applicant can logically evaluate a huge question. Is external legal intervention actually necessary, or do they possess the organizational capacity to successfully execute the whole shebang on their own? Moving right along to Section 2, Structural Composition and Contents, the expert report identifies a highly specific dual-volume architecture to this documentation. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how logically we can contrast the two primary pathways identified in the report. On one side, we have Pathway 1, which handles domestic adjustment of status for folks already inside the border. And on the flip side, Pathway 2 focuses heavily on overseas consular processing. These blueprints are intentionally bifurcated into these two distinct volumes because, the operational mechanics, the required evidence, and the timelines for each pathway are fundamentally different. Let's look at the deep internal mechanics of these 30-plus page guides. They're categorically mapped out by operational phase to completely eliminate the guesswork. In the preparation phase, the blueprints deploy these visual decision tree flowcharts alongside highly precise cost breakdowns. Then, during assembly, users get itemized form lists and direct hyperlinked resource mapping. And finally, for post-submission, the guides include rigorous protocols for both interview preparation and post-arrival actions. It's truly a complete start-to-finish lifecycle manual. Highlighting some of the non-obvious details from the report, we see that the integration of digital features is exactly what makes these blueprints functional. These aren't just static blocks of text. We're talking about dynamic digital PDF formats exceeding 30 pages. What makes them so operational is that direct hyperlinked mapping to official resources. Every reference government form or database is literally a single click away. That drastically optimizes the user experience and minimizes the very real, very dangerous risk of accidentally navigating to an outdated or fraudulent official portal. But of course, just possessing structured data is only half the battle, right? So how are these highly organized resources actually utilized in practice to guarantee a viable application? Which brings us to Section 3, Strategic Utilization Protocols. We're looking at cause and effect here. Let's move to and see how this builds into an exact operational flow that users must follow. Step 1 requires the user to evaluate their specific legal needs and eligibility via those embedded flowcharts. Step 2 is the meticulous assembly of accurate documentation
matching the itemized lists flawlessly. Step 3 involves preparing for rigorous interviews using the provided guidelines. And Step 4 is executing the post-arrival protocols. It's a linear, unyielding sequence. Each step absolutely relies on strict adherence to the previous one.
Crucially, the expert report notes a major implicit assumption about the user's technical setup. They state, the integration of digital tools is mandatory. These blueprints are functionally compromised if the applicant prints them out prematurely or tries to open them in an incompatible web browser. Actually, scratch that. Doing so literally breaks the functionality. Successful utilization relies heavily on correctly deploying specific, albeit free, digital software to properly manipulate these complex, dynamic government forms without ruining the digital formatting. The experts highlight some highly granular operational rules here to help applicants avoid systemic rejection. For example, you are warned to never pre-fill dynamic, unpre-populated fields. Doing that can corrupt the entire document. You also have to use a highly precise referencing methodology for any extra data. We're talking meticulously listing the exact page, part, and item number. You've got to provide clean, chronological evidence of your status. And above all, you must maintain strict organizational packet structures. Any deviation from the blueprint, you're instantly introducing the risk of delay or outright denial. Which naturally pivots us to a highly critical analytical question. With all of this structured, actionable guidance right at their fingertips, what are the explicit operational boundaries of these blueprints? Where exactly does their utility hit a hard stop? Section 4. Operational limitations and boundaries. Let's look at the risks and restrictions. So the crucial point is this. These procedural tools optimize organization immensely, but they absolutely do not substitute professional legal counsel. The expert report makes it clinically clear that while these blueprints mitigate friction and give you a highly detailed roadmap, ultimate legal liability rests entirely and solely with you, the applicant. If a catastrophic mistake is made, there is no way the guide can be blamed or held legally accountable. The legal boundaries here are strictly delineated. First off, the guides possess a strictly non-advisory legal status. They're informational, not representational. Second, zero liability is assumed by the creators for the outcome of the user's specific case. Third, the materials themselves are bound by strict copyright protections. And fourth, there's a rigid prohibition on commercial redistribution or resale. Essentially, the user is purchasing access to structured data, not outright ownership of the intellectual property. And this brilliantly illustrates the final analytical comparison. On one side, structured blueprints provide immense organizational data and structural clarity. They are the absolute best how-to manual you could ask for. But on the other side, actual legal counsel provides strategic advocacy, interprets complex nuance, and crucially, transfers liability away from the applicant. The blueprints end exactly where advocacy and representation begin. Understanding this stark demarcation is absolutely the most essential takeaway for any independent applicant. We'll conclude with this provocative thought. Will the democratization of procedural data fundamentally reduce our reliance on traditional bureaucratic gatekeepers? As these highly structured analytical blueprints become more advanced and easily accessible, they shift an incredible amount of power right back to the independent applicant. It really leaves us to wonder just how much of our complex legal systems can eventually be navigated through purely logical, objective data organization. Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and definitely keep questioning the structures around you.